a pest control franchise with unglamorous trucks, and no tech press coverage has quietly built more generational wealth than most startups you've heard of. There's a consistent pattern hiding beneath the loud surface of startup culture, and it has nothing to do with apps or venture capital. A large share of the most durable wealth in many countries was actually built through unglamorous service businesses generating repeat revenue from essential needs. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which boring businesses are quietly compounding wealth and why their operators want to keep it that way. Start with pest control, a business category that barely ever appears on a technology podcast, despite being genuinely lucrative. Demand for pest control is non-discretionary. Health codes, structural integrity concerns, and basic public anxiety all push customers to call even during a recession. The work itself is local, heavily regulated, and genuinely difficult to automate with software or robotics. Large operators like Rollins and Terminix have built multi-billion-dollar franchise networks entirely on this single, unglamorous base. Customer retention runs high in this industry because switching pest control providers costs real time and rebuilt trust for the customer. Margins on any single job aren't enormous, but the flow of recurring service contracts compounds steadily over years of repeat business. Next is HVAC installation and service, another category built on a demand curve that never really goes away. Every building and almost every vehicle has an HVAC system that eventually fails. That's simply mechanical certainty. Once a customer finds a reliable HVAC technician, they almost never switch providers again for years at a time. The work requires licensing in most U.S. states and in many jurisdictions worldwide, which naturally limits how much new competition can enter the market. Family-owned HVAC outfits commonly reach 8 figures in annual revenue while running with modest staff and steady, predictable margins. Third on this list, laundromats, specifically the new generation of unattended, app-paid storefronts replacing the old coin-operated model. Customers simply need clean clothes. The machines handle the actual work, and remote monitoring has cut operating costs dramatically for owners. That remote monitoring shift means a single owner can now run a small portfolio of locations without staffing each one individually. Fourth, self-storage facilities, which exploit almost the exact same arithmetic as laundromats, but with a real estate asset instead of machines. A self-storage facility rents by the month to a customer base whose need is non-discretionary, and it requires almost no labor once the facility is actually built. Fifth, senior home care and assisted living services, addressing a demographic wave that's structurally growing the customer base every single year. This work is regulated and requires trained staff, and it's difficult to scale without deliberately building out real operational systems. Sixth through ninth cover a cluster of businesses that all share the exact same underlying shape: essential demand paired with local reputation-based monopolies. Commercial and residential cleaning falls into this cluster, alongside plumbing, electrical contracting, and auto repair, all compounding a loyal customer list over decades. Vending machine routes, specialty welding, mobile diagnostic services, and industrial equipment repair all sit in this exact same durable demand category too. 10th on the list, express tunnel car washes, where capital intensity is genuinely high but per vehicle operating margin stays reliable and customer loyalty stays geographic. Funeral services round out this category as well, an industry where demand, uncomfortably, never actually goes away. Hair salons in high-density urban areas follow the same reputation-based loyalty pattern that pest control and HVAC both rely on. Medical specialty clinics in underserved regions capture essential demand in areas where competition simply hasn't shown up yet. Franchise tax preparation services close out this list, protected by the same combination of licensing requirements and recurring annual customer need. Now here's the actual investor and operator logic, tying every single one of these 10 categories together into one pattern. Each business is defended by at least one of 5 specific things: licensing requirements, professional certification, high fixed cost real estate, recurring contract structure, or simply guaranteed ongoing need. These businesses require modest capital or a manageable franchise fee to get started, nothing close to venture scale funding rounds. They generate recurring revenue instead of one-time sales, which is exactly what makes the 7-figure and 8-figure outcomes possible over time. None of them depend on fast-moving technology cycles the way a software startup does. which means less risk of sudden obsolescence. And every single one of them is deeply boring to the press that covers most new fortunes being built today. That lack of glamour is doing real economic work here. It's actively protecting margins by keeping competition artificially low. Most founders and journalists simply aren't paying attention to a pest control franchise or a laundromat portfolio, so competitors don't rush in. Here's the entry path that actually works best across almost all 10 of these categories, and it's not starting from zero. The most common entry path is acquiring an existing small operator, rather than building an entirely new customer base from scratch. Acquiring an established customer base is simply cheaper than the years it takes to build trust and repeat business from nothing. That's why private equity and independent buyers increasingly target existing pest control routes, HVAC outfits, and laundromat portfolios instead of launching new ones. Several business school case studies have specifically studied this exact pattern across multiple boring service categories. Bloomberg and Inc. Feature Reporting have both identified laundromats, pest control, HVAC, and self-storage as quietly generating serious generational wealth. That reporting consistently notes these categories produce wealth the high-profile startup industry rarely produces in the same volume or reliability. Think about the actual mechanics behind why this works so consistently across all 10 categories on this list. Licensing requirements alone act as a built-in moat. A new competitor can't simply show up tomorrow and start competing without clearing regulatory hurdles first. Recurring contracts turn a single sale into years of predictable revenue, compounding quietly in the background without any additional marketing spend. High fixed-cost real estate, like a self-storage facility, becomes harder for new entrants to replicate once land and construction costs keep climbing. Compare that structure to a typical startup, where competition can copy a product overnight and margins can collapse just as fast. A pest control route built over 15 years, with the same customers renewing service contracts year after year, doesn't face that same overnight competitive risk. That durability is exactly why Rollins and Terminix could scale pest control into multi-billion-dollar franchise networks without a single viral product launch. None of these 10 businesses will ever trend on a startup podcast, and that's precisely the point their owners are counting on. The invisibility itself is the moat, keeping new competitors from noticing the margins sitting quietly inside pest control trucks and laundromat storefronts. So the real opportunity most people overlook isn't a hidden tech niche. It's these 10 unglamorous categories hiding in plain sight in every town. Licensing, recurring demand, and reputation-based local loyalty. That combination is what's actually built the wealth most people never hear about. If uncovering overlooked business models like this interests you, there's another video on this channel breaking down a completely different category most people ignore. Go watch that one next, because the pattern of boring, essential, and quietly profitable shows up again in a business you'd never expect.